All right, so we're making great progress. The next thing we need to focus on is the animation and the event surrounding the countdown of the progress bar and what happens when we get all the way to the end of the countdown. We need to fire off an event that we can handle and then decide what to do. And there's really two scenarios where we need to worry about countdown. First is whenever we're cooling off. There's a cooling off period waiting for the next round to start, and then there's the next round itself that's actually ongoing, and we are waiting. We're playing the music and we're counting down to determine the value or the score for the player if he makes a selection at a given moment in time. Okay, so to get the animation to work, I'm going to have to add a storyboard. I'm going to add a storyboard to the page's resources. So let's get started with that. We didn't talk about storyboards and animations. I only briefly described what they were. You'll get a little bit more of an insight into what they are and keyframes and actions that happen at certain moments in time during the playback of that animation. So hopefully you'll get the hang of it here as we get started. So like I said, the first thing that we're going to do is actually add a page.resources section to our app. And I'm going to create a storyboard. And storyboard, let's give it a name. And you can see it doesn't have a name, but I'm going to use the X colon from this namespace here, and that'll allow me to attach a name to a storyboard. And I'm just going to call it the countdown storyboard. Countdown. And because we're going to need to access it programmatically, so that's why I want to give it a name. And then I'm also going to handle the completed event, so I'll go ahead and add a completed. We'll come back to that later. Now, there's different types of animations that I can add. In this particular case, I want a double animation using keyframes. And so a double is the data type. I want it to go to have values that are numeric. And using keyframes allows me to identify key moments in the life of the animation where I change key values of given properties. All right, so hopefully that's will make enough sense to at least get started with it. And we're going to have to give a few important pieces of information. For example, the storyboard dot target name. This is what we want to affect, and I think I call this my progress bar. So that's what this animation will deal with, and then the property of that storyboard. So target property equals, and this we're going to just have to kind of follow this. Essentially, what I want to do is set the value, and it's so typically with a progress bar, you know, you have a maximum and minimum, so I think that's pretty much what that's denoting. It's just using a base class called range. And then there's one other property I need to set, which is called enable dependent animation, and I'm going to set that to true. Okay. And now what I want to do is actually add a number of keyframes. So I'm going to add a discrete double keyframe, and the key time will be, in this first case, at 0 seconds. I want the value of my progress bar to be 100. Okay. And then I'm going to copy this like 10 times. Copy and paste. All right, I'll come back to that in just a moment. And so at 001, actually, let me get rid of all this. All right, at 001, I want the value to still be 100. At 002, I want the value to be 90. All right, hopefully you can see the pattern emerging. And so now I'm just going to copy and paste a bunch of these. So at 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, 8, 9, and then at 10 seconds, and we'll just keep counting down the values: 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, and 10. And so back here in the main page, that's XAML.cs. I'm gonna create a helper method. So we'll start the cooldown, and basically my progress bar dot. Actually, I can just call countdown dot begin, right? And so here, let's do this. Whenever we load up and finish there, we'll just call start cooldown. Let's see how this works. Yep, and there we go. You can see how we're starting the cooldown. So we'll deliver a message, something like getting ready for round 1, round 2, round 3. Now at this point, we fired off. When we get to the end, we get to the countdown completed. Okay, so we got to figure out what we want to do there. And like I said, there's two scenarios. There's one where music is actually playing, and then there's another scenario where there's no music playing. So I'm going to actually keep track of the current state of the app by creating a playing music Boolean, and I'm going to initialize its value to false. And this will allow us to determine the current state of the app once we hit the countdown. So here, if we're not playing music, so if exclamation mark not playing music, then what we need to do is start playing some music, and then we'll do kind of the opposite to start countdown. So the cooldown is different than the countdown. The countdown will be where you're actually playing music and we're waiting for user input to determine what the correct song is. So let's call this start countdown. Here we're going to set playing music equal to true. And then I'm also going to change the color of the progress bar to red. So I'm getting ready for that here. So my progress bar dot foreground equals brush. Then in the instruction text block, I want to say go. It's time to listen. Whoops. Listen to the music, and I'm also going to set the foreground equal to that same red color there, and then I'm going to call countdown begin again, like that. And so in the cooldown, we kind of want to do the exact opposite. So in the start cooldown, we're going to set playing music equal to false. And here, actually, let me grab several things here. This will be blue instead of red. And then in the instruction text block equals text, we want to do string.format, get ready for round, and then I got to figure out what round it is. So here's another place where I'm going to have to keep track of which round we're in. Let's go ahead and go up here, and let's go int round equals 0. Yeah, that seems right. Okay, so then here we're going to go round plus 1, because that'll be the next round will be round 1, right? And I'm also going to do instruction text block dot foreground equals brush, like that. Here we're going to call start countdown. And here what I want to do is there's a bunch of things that have to happen, like we're going to evaluate the user's selection and score it and all that kind of stuff, and then eventually we're also going to want to start the count the cooldown again. So start cooldown here. All right, so let's see how this works. Okay, so we're getting ready for round one. All right, and you can see here now we're playing. And ideally, I would make a selection here and we'll reset everything. But I'm going to go ahead and let it tick all the way down. Okay, so we're just kind of waiting here. You would get minimal points at this point, even if you selected it true. But by selecting a song, it will start the next round. We just have to increment the round number. So that's one of the things we'll want to do here. It's going to be a round like that. Whoops. All I wanted to do was plus plus. Can we do that? Yeah, great. Okay, so we got the countdown working, got the storyboard working. We need to select the next song that we want played, and that's really going to get kicked off here when the cooldown is completed and this fires and we're not playing music. That means we want to start playing music. So here I want to pick a song. So let's do something like this: var song equals pick song. And we don't have that implemented just yet, so let's create a private void pick song. And actually it's not going to be void, it's going to return a song. And what we'll need to do is, first of all, we're going to need to use the random class. And, yes. So here's what my thought process is. This is what I would like to do. I would like to have a list of unused songs, songs that we've not touched yet that are still available on that list of songs we initially picked out. So of all the songs, give me all the songs where the used method or the used property is false. And so we need to add another attribute to song called used. Okay, and obviously by default that should be false, but we'll populate that. And now what we'll want to do is grab the random number equals random.next. Give me a random number, the number of unused songs dot count, like that. And so then we'll get the random song equals unused songs dot element at random number. And so that random song now is currently the selected song. So I'm going to set its selected attribute to true. I'm going to return that random song like so. So we picked the song, and now I need to go my media element dot set the source, and I want to set it to my song. Now the song class does contain the song file, right? That's of type storage file. And in order to call this set source method, I'm going to need to give it two things. First of all, I'm going to need to give it the stream from the file itself. So basically I need to open up the file and give it a pipeline into that file, and then I need to give it the content type, the MIME type. And so that's easy enough. I can just use a property called a content type. But the other one, I'm going to have to do actually something a little bit nifty here. Song.songfile.open. I want you to open yourself, and I need an access mode just for read only. I'm not going to write to you. Now, obviously, this is async, so it's awaitable, so I have to do something like that. In fact, let's go ahead and knock that to the next line, put that on the next line, and do that. And so that would make this async. Do I have to even return a task to that? I don't know that I do. I'm not going to this time. Okay. So my media element dot set source, and then I want to start the countdown after I've made that pick. Okay. So let's see what happens here. I think we're pretty close here to working prototype. Okay, we grab all the songs. Now let's get ready for round one. If we're lucky, at the end of round one, the sound will, when this goes away, when we get down to the end of the cooldown. Oh, and here we go. Okay, so it mostly worked. There's some things after the click I got to figure out, like, did they click on the right song or not? If they didn't, what are we going to do then? Okay, but we'll get to that. Actually, I think we're good to go in this video. We will continue on to the next one where we actually do that evaluation of what the user clicked on and what points do we give them as a result of that. So we'll do that next. Doing great.